let's talk about the police in Scotland. Are logging rapists who get alleged rapists who get arrested, interviewed, and they identify as women, so they're logged as female. So you have a rapist. By the way, a woman under British law is incapable of rape. It's not on the statute book. So you have to be a male to commit rape. And yet these rapists, alleged rapists, say, I identify as a woman. So it goes down in the police records as a rape committed by a female. So there's a number of angles to talk about here. So I thought we would talk to Kellie-Jay Keen, founder of Standing for Women, who regular listeners know has rather outspoken views on this, and also Harry Miller from the police angle. He's a former police officer and founder of the Fair Cop Group. Good evening, Harry. Good evening, Kellie-Jay.
Hi, good evening.
Let's go to you. Let's go to you first, Kellie-Jay. I mean, here we go again. These are rapists, alleged rapists, interviewed, arrested for attacks on women. They say, I identify as a woman, and they're being recorded as females who've committed these rapes, which leads you into a kind of Alice in Wonderland situation, because technically in this country a woman cannot commit rape. It's not on the statute book, and yet the police are recording these incidents as allegedly committed by females, because they say I identify as a woman. There's no common sense in this, is there? It's stupidity.
No, I think the police have just made absolute fools of themselves over the last few years. I remember sort of being a policeman when I was a kid was quite a respectable thing. There was a healthy dose of fear. You expected them to be black and white with the law. Not always the nicest people in the world, but certainly the law seemed really important. And it probably is to the majority of people that join the police. But then you have these political, nonsensical positions that the police seem to hold, and whether the officer genuinely believes that these men are women is another issue, but he's certainly told that he has to say it publicly.
Harry, this actually gets in the way of efficient policing, doesn't it? That you're recording something in a kind of woke way that doesn't really reflect reality. Let's call it like it is. We're talking about alleged rapists who've committed attacks on women, being arrested, being hauled into the police station, identifying as women, and then being recorded as female rapists. I mean, as I just said to Kellie-Jay, that's insane, isn't it?
It's completely insane, but that's the entire point. The point of this is to get us to believe the absolute absurd. And if they can get us to believe that women have penises, they can get us to believe anything. And as far as I can tell, this is precisely the point. This is this is Winston. Tell me, does a woman have a penis? And we're supposed to say yes. That's what this is all about. It's about training our minds and our speech to simply accept what the woke state tells us is so, to defy the evidence of our own eyes, to defy the evidence of biology, and simply say, yes, Winston, whatever you say is true, is true. Now, of course, nobody actually believes it. None of us believe it. We all know that only a man has a penis. We know that. We know that it takes a penis to commit rape, and therefore only men can commit rape. But of course, what will happen here is that the figures, the statistics, will be entirely skewed, given a matter of time. And then eventually the trans activists and the woke ideologists will be able to hold up the statistics and say, look, there are as many rapes committed by women as there are by men. And that will be yet one more nail in the coffin of sex segregated spaces. So that's what this is all about. It's attempting to create an entirely false set of statistics and just training us into believing the absolute absurd and the impossible.
What I think about this, Kellie-Jay, is that, it's another example of women kind of being non-personed, kind of crushed as if they don't matter. So what we're talking about is an offender with male genitalia has committed an alleged attack on a woman. And this person says, well, I identify as a female. So they get treated as a female. And that undermines to me the experience of the victim. And it puts an absurd kind of veneer of wokery on a situation that shouldn't have wokery. We're talking about sex abuse. We're talking about an attack on a woman. And by allowing, frankly, the bloke who attacked that woman to say, I identify as a woman, and writing them down as female, I think it's an insult to their victim.
It is. It's such a coincidence that this keeps happening to women, this mass erasure and corruption of all of our rights. There's so many things that lead from this. Like, number one, we made a big fat mistake when we put any legitimacy to the fact that men can be a subset of women in law. And I think that was, the GRA was our first catastrophic error. But what happens to that rape victim is then she goes to court and she has to say she in the court case. She has to say that man with her penis raped me. If she doesn't, she'll get told off. If women go to prison and they talk about rapists in prison and they refer to that person as a man and use he, him pronouns, they might get extra days on their sentence. I mean, it just needs to go. We need to lose this idea that any man can be a woman and that they deserve any female language or rights whatsoever. It just has to go now. We can all see how ridiculous it is and what it leads to. And none of it, not one single thing of it, is good for women.
It isn't. That's what I feel about it. It's sexism. It's the unpersoning of women, as if they don't matter. So you very rarely hear men described as bodies with penises, but you do hear women often referred to as women or people with cervixes. It doesn't happen to men, but it does happen to women. So, Harry, to go back to the policing side of things, when are the top cops, because it's their fault, when are they going to learn that this is just nonsense? It's silly, it's stupid, it's ignorant. When are they going to learn?
Well, with a little bit of luck, the Court of Appeal will rule in my favour at some point soon. I mean, my goodness, it's been 9 months, closing on 10 now. But if we get that Court of Appeal ruling and it's positive, then I strongly suspect that we'll throw out all the hate crime guidance and chief constables will be free to speak once again the truth. And at that point, if they don't speak the truth, then police and crimes commissioners need to find, their courage and fire these idiots. That's what we need to do. We need to start firing chief constables. Any chief constable who prioritises a man in a dress over the biological fact of a woman needs firing. The end. And Fair Cop will be there, along with Kellie-Jay and a whole bunch of other women who know truth from fiction, to make sure that happens.
Kellie-Jay, I was just going to ask you a final question on a much less serious basis, but we did do this story earlier and I thought of you, but I thought, well, we'll save Kelly for a more serious story. But the producers of James Bond are now saying that 007, the next 007 could be non-binary, not using the pronouns they and them. What are your thoughts about that? I think James Bond should be a bloke, don't you?
Well, non-binary, non-profit, I'm sure those things go hand in hand. How ridiculous. I don't even, look, it's a character in a book. If you want to make a non-binary superhero or spy, whatever James Bond is, write another good, I don't agree with the whole non-binary thing. I think it's ridiculous. But if you want James Bond to be a different character, write a different character. We don't need James Bond to be something that it wasn't conceived in the author's head. This whole kind of shoehorning different characters and rewrites of really solid, fictitious characters into something else, I just find quite odd. Are there not more stories that we can tell?
Yeah, I really do feel that when Ian Fleming wrote James Bond, he didn't have a kind of non-binary thing in mind. Kellie-Jay, it's always great to talk to you. Thank you so much for your time. Same for you, Harry. Good to talk, mate.